Welcome back to day number 1 here in Orlando, Florida. And we are also joining in back on the action. If you missed it, Cedric just beat the most Florida team possible.
We are continuing on in some losers finals battles. Coming up next, we have Beach versus Rainbow Man, and it's about to get rocky here, Butters.
It might just get rocky. I know you have peeked at it.
To go into, but let's take a look at the teams that our players have on stage and see just how weak the team Beach is running is into Bastion. We got Beach with the shades on too, trying to make it block out some of the incoming rocks. We got Poliwrath, Skarmory, Altaria, Shadow Gligar, Lickitung, and Lantern on his squad.
Yeah, it looks fairly safe into that Bastion. You got the Poliwrath, you got the, sharing the shades there, sharing the love. I love it from these two competitors here. And you have the Lantern, which is this neutrally pretty strong against the Bastion as well. At least in Bastion's favor, there's 2 targets that you could really hard wall, which is the Altaria and the Skarmory.
Well, the Lickitung as well too. So 3 really solid matchups. 2 semi kind of neutral-ish matchups against the Lantern Gligar. If you have shields up, it's not too bad for the Bastion in those situations. But let's get into Beach's team first. Non-Shadow Poliwrath, Scald Icy Wind is the moveset of choice. Skarmory, Altaria, Shadow Gligar, Lickitung, and Spark Lantern. We saw Beach on stage earlier in, I believe, a close 3 games against J Mills. But now, moving on to the losers finals with another chance to make day number 2.
Yeah, and he has that triple flyer, right? And you often use both of those flying types together. Maybe it's a Shadow Gligar, it's a Skarmory. Maybe it's even an Altaria in the Skarmory, but they do complement each other quite well. And then, of course, on Rambling Man's side, you have the Bastion. But to fill that out, let's be honest, the other 5 Pokemon are the more important Pokemon here. And Mandibuzz is looking kind of strong against Beach's team, but then, of course, the Cresselia is looking quite safe as well. You just kind of have to worry about that Skarmory.
Exactly, and that's the thing, right? I mean, Skarmory, yeah, has a fantastic matchup against the Cresselia. Against everything else on the side of Rainbow Man's team, it's actually not amazing, right? Annihilate with shields definitely can muscle through that matchup. Whiscash is going to resist that Steel Wing damage. Scald hits quite a bit. Looks like these 2 trainers are starting to get locked and low. Let's see what the action's going to play out and how it's going to look. Rainbow Man actually just came straight from Europe, was competing at EUIC with the Bastion too, so he's very familiar with this rock Pokemon.
Yeah, and he's coming out strong here with the Cresselia lead into the Poliwrath, and regular Poliwrath just has no shot. Your ABA weak to Cresselia, so you actually swap into the Lantern, but there's an even better Lantern action answer in the back, which is that Shadow Whiscash.
Yeah, so this is going to be interesting. Hard counter in the lead, and then hard counter on the counter swap. However, the Skarmory in the back definitely has play into definitely the Cresselia and also the Dewgong. So we're going to see if Beach tries to fight for Switch or not. It's not a great matchup, especially against the Shadow Whiscash. 2 Mud Bombs will be able to knock out the Lantern.
Yeah, it's really tough to flip this, especially because you just get outpaced so quickly. You're already at the double Mud Bomb. You just let this go, and this Whiscash is still at about 40-45% health here. It's going to be tough to even finish it off for the Poliwrath because you're going to definitely have to take double Mud Bomb unless you're going to commit an Icy Wind or a Scald.
The Mud Bombs start to really add up. Luckily, this is not a, it is not a Shadow Poliwrath, so the Mud Bomb damage won't be as severe. Actually going for the Scald instead, fishing for potentially a debuff. I don't know about this one, but either way, Rainbow Man's still in a pretty commanding position.
You need to put the shades back on for a move like that, but able to get that counter down. As you see, it wasn't exactly what he was going for. Didn't get that debuff, as you could hear the audio of him not getting it. And now you actually leave this Poliwrath healthier, but the problem is you just hard wall it. I mean, you don't wall it, you take all this damage, but it really doesn't do that much if you are the Cresselia into a non-Shadow Poliwrath.
I like this play from Beach, right?
So
chip it down, weaken the attack, and then maybe swap. Oh, okay, I thought Beach was potentially going to try to catch a Grass Knot. Instead, going to just stay in here. Now goes down a shield, which puts him in a much tougher position for the back-end matchup.
Yeah, you did get that debuff, but you probably need to swap on some energy somewhere. You need to get some type of advantage. Skarmory equal against Dewgong in the back isn't going to do it for you because you're so far down in this matchup, but that's actually adding up now. Are you going to try to swap with the Grass Knot? Reaching for a swap? No, does not swap on it. So now suddenly, are you going to double? Yes, double protection. Just going to try to counter your way through it. And if it can counter through, it's going to be hard to Ice Shard down this Poliwrath.
Yeah, so this is going to be an interesting play from Beach. Is going to go for the Ice Wind. Rambling finally going to put up this first shield. I think Beach looked like he was even trying to swap over to the Skarmory. Let's see if he does make for the catch this time. No, just completely lets the Poliwrath go. And Grass Knot is going to connect here. And you see a little banter between the two players, try to see, oh, what's that final Pokemon? We're going to both find out at the same time. And it's going to be the Dugong versus Skarmory. Now, typically, this is not a terrible matchup for Skarmory, but because Skarmory doesn't have any shields remaining, this is a much more difficult position to be in.
Yeah, it's so tough. I actually don't know if Skarmory down a shield can beat any Pokemon on Rambling Man's team that was available, because Cresselia is not an option. All the other ones are going to be fine up a Protect Shield versus a Skarmory in the back. So that's just such a tough position for Beach here as you land that first Icy Wind, and you're going to be able to use your Protect Shield here and then get to that second Icy Wind, and it looks like Rambling Man's going to be able to take a comfortable 1-0 advantage.
Yeah, I really like that play from Rambling Man, just letting that first attack go. Unlikely that first attack was going to be a Brave Bird. It could have been, but going for that gamble, and I like it. It definitely paid off. Now, Beach has to go to 2 back-to-back moves. I mean, he just closed in on it, so let's see if his Skarmory can survive the ensuing Ice Shard damage before getting to it, but you still have the Cresselia in the back, too.
Oh, that was actually really close to get to that second Sky Attack there that would have secured the knockout into the Dugong, but well played by Rambling Man there, able to call that back line, and Beach just really had no shot as soon as he had the Poliwrath led into the Cresselia. And how about Rambling Man to have the Shadow Whiscash for the State Swap Lantern as well, because Lantern does look really strong against most of Rambling Man's team, so I feel like that's why he definitely brought the Cresselia and the Shadow Whiscash together in that game number 1.
I think you made a really great point there too, Butters. You said, you know, Skarmory, unless it's against a Cresselia, anything else with the shield advantage in the back end matchup was going to be able to potentially beat Skarmory, right? And if you look at the rest of the Rambling Man's team, that makes a lot of sense. So I think if this ever situation repeats itself, I would love to see Beach potentially try to pivot out to the Skarmory, save the shields for it, or at least just get out of the Cresselia matchup, right? I mean, that's like your worst matchup against is really your Poliwrath versus the Cresselia.
Yeah, because you need to shake it up a little bit. As you see, this is going to knock out the Poliwrath, and the Poliwrath gave up 2 Protect Shields before that. But imagine if that Poliwrath was able to bank up a bunch of energy by countering down the Dugong. So I agree with you. If you were to have pivoted and try to catch a Grass Knot, and Rambling Man was throwing Grass Knot when it was available, so if you did swap on that pivot and then get the reverse farm down onto the Dugong after Skarmory loses that matchup, then maybe you had a slight chance. But Beach has another opportunity right here, game number 2, and it's going to be Shadow Gligar led into Mandibuzz, and Mandibuzz is a pretty decent answer in neutral situations.
Oh, this is a very great line for Rambling Man, because not only is the Mandibuzz in a positive matchup versus Gligar in the lead, it beats the Lickitung in the back. And you can't really easily swap to anything, right? If you swap to Poliwrath, that's your only Mandibuzz counter, which even then is not even the best counter because you're still taking super effective aerial. So this Mandibuzz is really well positioned throughout pretty much this entire battle.
And how about this team composition call from Rambling Man? He brought ABA strong to Lantern in game number 1 because his team is kind of soft to Lantern without the Whiscash and the Cresselia, and then he scared it off. Game number 2, he's ABA weak to Lantern. Now he has the Mandibuzz in the lead and the Dugong in the back.
And he's also ABA strong into the Gligar too. Oh, okay, swapping into the Lickitung. You can see saying, you know, some nice catches, but you know, maybe not the best move you want to catch because Dark Pulse is still the move of choice here too.
Yeah, and you can bank up some energy that you just lost on that catch before you swap out, but deciding to stay in, throw the Dark Pulse because you're still out of body slam range because Mandibuzz is just so thick here. You can keep snarling up. You don't have a great answer to bring in, so I feel like you're just trying to get it as close as you can to Moonblast range. So when you eventually want to knock it out with your Cresselia in the back.
Okay, so this is going to be interesting because Rambling actually shoots the shield here. I think he really wants to just keep the Dugong for the Lickitung, right? Because the thing is, if you bring in Cresselia into the Lickitung, that Poliwrath's just going to go to town, right?
Yeah.
Then the Cresselia's out of the way, and that's your only counter.
And if you lose alignment here, that's going to be really tough because if you let this go, you're going to match up the Poliwrath into the Dugong here. So suddenly, Beach has some momentum in this battle. And now what do you bring in? Do you show the Dugong here to try to Icy Wind or Ice Shard down? Yes, you are showing the Dugong here, but you're going to have to take a little body slam, and now you're going to have to match up against Poliwrath.
I think this is still the better option for Random, just getting some value out of Dugon, expecting potentially a Poliwrath in the back. Yes, Poliwrath's going to come in here, but Random Man still has a lot of health on this Cresselia. It could definitely put a fight up even against the Gligar. Actually, going for the Icy Wind here. Interesting play. I don't know if it's the best play, but let's see how it plays out. Because the thing is, this debuff is nice, but the thing is, once you come in Cresselia, Beach is just going to clear this debuff and swap over to Gligar. Beach actually building up to the Scald and then swapping over.
I believe he got just the Icy Wind. Maybe he's one counter away from that Scald here and uses the Protect Shield into the Gligar. Now, this is super risky because if you give up both your Protect Shields, your Poliwrath can just get one hit knocked out by a Moonblast in the back. So you're going to try to get as much damage off as you can, but Rambling Man and his Cresselia is going to be tough to get through, and you actually Protect Shield an Aerial Ace.
Yeah, unfortunate shield for Rambling Man, but the thing is, Beach came in to the Cresselia with a lot of entries. This Cresselia had a decent amount of entries to throw at the Gligar, making this matchup a little bit uncomfortable. Switch timers are also super misaligned here. Let's see if Beach is going to shield this Grass Knot or not. I think if he does, you could potentially even swap into the Dugon if you're Rambling Man.
I think you can't. You have to save it for the Poliwrath, and there is the save here, and you try to swap on the Scald, but no, he's already at the Scald. The timer is not available. This is not enough for a knockout, so you're definitely going to get a Protect Shield from this Cresselia. Do you throw it now or do you bank it? It's a decision of Rambling Man, and he decides to actually farm up a little more. It looks like he's going to try to get the double Grass Knot. If he gets a double Grass Knot, that could win him the game.
I think that definitely should be the play. If you leave with the Grass Knot banked, you just potentially could lose charge attack priority later. Let's see what happens. Oh no! Throws on charge attack priority, but now Poliwrath just doesn't have any energy, so you don't really have super effective attacks on the Poliwrath. It's not a great matchup, but the counters are really going to add up. Let's see if you can get to the Drill Run before the next move is being thrown. Drill Run is going to be reached.
This is non-shadow, and I feel like you wish you threw a Drill Run earlier.
That's how I'm thinking the same thing. Let's see what happens.
It's not enough, and it looks like Poliwrath is going to be able to reach the Scald, so that risky bait early on by Rambling Man to throw the Icy Wind. If that Icy Wind was the Drill Run, that second Drill Run would have knocked out, but instead, Beach ties it up 1-1.
All right. Well, Rambling Man, I think, just wanted to give us some extra content, forcing this game number 3 there. But yeah, a very close game. Again, typically, I think if you throw the Ice Wind, it makes sense if you expect Beach to stay in that matchup. But having seen the Gligar already earlier, it's safe to assume that Beach will want to swap out that match with Cresselia. However, you know, it still came down to the wire in that situation. A really great team alignment initially, but that safe swap Lickitung was very, very strong for Beach. Even safe swapping into a Mandibuzz, essentially, a thing that beats it.
Yeah, and that's why Shadow Gligar is so good, because even though you're disadvantaged with the Shadow Gligar into Mandibuzz, you are able to do just enough damage to get that Mandibuzz low enough. As you see on the screen here, it was low enough to get knocked out eventually by that Lickitung. And once it got knocked out by the Lickitung, that meant that the Poliwrath had the alignment. And when Poliwrath has the alignment in these battles, he has been winning. So the aerial ace bait was also huge there. Because if you no shield that, then you could definitely have that shield for a Scald later on as well.
Yeah, or even a dig, right? But unfortunately not able to get that to happen. And, you know, really great charge attack priority from Beach, just narrowly avoiding that Grass Knot, and this final Scald is going to connect. The non-shadow Poliwrath has been definitely working for Beach, I gotta say, in today's tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it's much better against Shadow Gligar, but its bulk can pay off at times. And in these situations, especially against that Drill Run, when it was able to hold on, you do favor the non-shadow, but I think Rambling Man would have favored throwing the double Drill Run there, but it was a great no shield by Beach. But it makes sense because you know you're going to be facing Cresselia. You would much rather shield a Grass Knot or a Moonblast than a Drill Run. I'm really curious on how Rambling Man plays this game number 3, because he's played ABA strong versus Lantern and then ABA weak to Lantern. How does he balance that team, or that game number 3 team composition?
It's going to be interesting to see for sure. I think Cresselia is definitely going to come out because it just looks so strong into the side of Beach, right? Poliwrath, you kind of have to bring in a lot of situations, and it just like beats the Lantern as well very consistently. Very neutral matchup into the Lickitung and the Gligar, and pretty solid into Altari with that Moonblast. So I think if you bring Cresselia with Skarmory counters, you should be in a pretty good spot if you're Rambling Man.
And this is the Cresselia as trainers wish each other good luck here. And it's met up by the Poliwrath. That is the best case scenario for Rambling Man. Instant pivot to Lantern, but you're A, B, B, weak the Lantern. This is your Lantern answer, so you actually have to stay in this matchup. But this is what you wanted. You wanted to find Lantern with your Cresselia.
You did, for sure, because the back-end matchup is not that great in any regard. And look at Beach's team. There's no Cresselia counter. The best counter is a Gligar, which is a neutral matchup. There's no Skarmory to be found, no Lickitung even. And so this is looking really good for Rambling so far. I mean, I think Rambling can just maintain the alignment here, and that Gligar really has nowhere to go in the back-end matchups.
Yeah, and especially against that Dugong. If you do maintain the alignment here and have Dugong versus Gligar, I don't know how Beach is going to come out of this matchup, but Beach has the opportunity to try to use your Protect Shields and then try to get the alignment here. I feel like you need to go for it in this situation. Is he going to Protect Shield the Lantern? No, he actually lets the Lantern go. The Lantern is knocked out now, so that means your Gligar is probably going to be facing against that Dugong, but looks like you're sacking the Gligar, so can Poliwrath have a chance versus a Dugong Mandibuzz backline?
It really can, because Poliwrath actually can beat that Mandibuzz, especially up shields. The thing is, can Poliwrath do everything by itself? I expected Rambling maybe to potentially pivot out, but instead just going to sacrifice the Cresselia completely, going for the grass.
Wow.
Oh, we get the shield though. This is huge for Rambling Man. You know, Mandibuzz typically will lose against Poliwrath, but of a shield, that might be a different story. Dugong does come through. You don't really want to be in this matchup too long. I think Rambling might just let this go. You've already seen all three Pokemon at this point too, so you already know where your win conditions are. Really great call to not shield and end up not even shielding the bait there. Here comes the Poliwrath, but here comes the Mandibuzz, the bulky flying Dark-type Pokemon. Beach is probably going to go straight for the Icy and start debuffing.
Throwing on charge attack priority right when the Aerial Ace was available there to try to debuff beforehand. No Protect Shield on that Icy Wind. It's super effective, but it just really doesn't do that much damage. And here comes the Protect Shield from Beach, trying to throw it and maybe get to a second Icy Wind, but Mandibuzz might outpace the next Aerial Ace.
Yeah, I believe Mandibuzz will. Icy Wind does take a little bit more time to get to, so the second Aerial Ace is going to come through. I mean, it's still a good shield from Beach, because that Aerial Ace is going to do the most amount of damage out of the remaining moves to that Poliwrath. The question is, can Poliwrath, yeah, nothing. I mean, it's debuffed, and it's also non-shadow Poliwrath. At this point, I think Rambling Man is just going to commit all the shields on this Mandibuzz. I wonder if Beach might go for a combo play later. Switch timers are coming up soon. Rambling Man just going to reach for the Aerial Ace, not even going to throw on optimized time. He just wants to get this energy off and do this damage.
Well, this is huge because it puts Poliwrath in range of Drill Run, because you're probably going to try to swap at some point into the Gligar after you get this shield, because if you don't swap, you're going to get knocked out by Aerial Ace, and that means the Dugong is going to be able to reverse farm down the Gligar, and the Poliwrath is in range of Drill Run. This is looking great for Rambling Man.
Yeah, I think he's...
but he let it go.
He's letting it go. I think he needs to try to catch a Drill Run, and actually Rambling Man throwing the Icy Wind. I actually like this play, because he's...
But does it knock out, Caleb?
I don't know.
It might not knock out, and then you're at the Icy Wind, but no! It actually does knock out.
I was expecting maybe he's throwing it so that in case Beach does swap on the potential Drill Run, it still knocks out, right? So a potential calculate play, but
it's not over.
It's not over.
You can still get to an Aerial Ace. You can get the Aerial Ace.
It does get the Aerial Ace. Wait, hold on.
Is this enough? Aerial Ace.
I don't think it does.
He doesn't think it does. Rambling Man doesn't think it does. The Aerial Ace. It does. It does.
Beach able to come down to the wire and take out that Dugong with Aerial Ace.
Good game.
You can hear Beach saying, you know, that was a game. That sure was a game for sure. Great games by both competitors there.
I agree. That was a good game. That was intense. There were so many options in the in-game there of what you could do. You could have Protect Shielded the Mandibuzz. You went for the Icy Wind, which I didn't know if that was enough. Imagine if the Poliwrath hung on and threw its own Icy Wind. It just gets so dicey, and then probably at the end, it was just literally a game of inches. Any one health more you might have endured. Rambling Man said himself, he didn't think it was enough, but it was.
Yeah, I think Poliwrath is definitely the MVP for Beach there. In that third game, I think if Rambling Man pivoted out, saved the Cresselia for the Poliwrath later, it would have been put Rambling Man in a maybe better situation, because you have two counters for Gligar in the back, right? The Mandibuzz and the Dugong. So at that point in time, you can just swap over the Mandibuzz, draw the Poliwrath back out, chip it down, and then just lock in the Dugong for the Gligar. But, you know, sometimes that's hard to see in the moment in time, especially if you don't see all Pokemon on the side from your opponents. But yeah,
that
really
was
great stuff.
That was an amazing series. Let's look at it again. Let's check out the highlights, because I have to agree with you. Poliwrath was so strong, and Rambling Man was often throwing the not very effective, the Scald into the Poliwrath, 2 Icy Winds into that Poliwrath as well. Poliwrath is just feeling kind of good right now.
Yeah, he should probably change the name to Debuff Man, really going for the debuffs in a lot of these situations. But here in that first game too, able to get that Dugong here. I mean, yeah, pretty much all his Pokemon are going for debuffs at this point. But Dugong able to lock it in to the Skarmory for that early game Game 1 win for Rainbow Man.
And look how close Skarmory actually got. Down a shield to almost get to that next Sky Attack there. And then, of course, game number 2, able to hold on to alignment between 2 Pokemon that should lose the Mandibuzz. Shadow Gligar and Lickitung somehow teamed up, held hands, and took down that Mandibuzz.
Yeah, this Cresselia was definitely really strong from Rainbow Man. I mean, even in a game where Beach didn't really have a counter for Cresselia, was still able to find a way around it, though.
And if he threw that drill run earlier in that match, that second drill run would have definitely knocked out, and he might have 2-0'd Beach to move on to day number 2. But it was tied 1-1, and running a team ABB weak to Lantern, but forced the Safe Swap Lantern and was able to comfortably take the alignment.
Yeah, able to come. So this is the point where, you know, the pivot potentially could have been better in that situation. No shielding all the aerial ace baits, though, which really worked out quite well for Rainbow Man. And then we got the Mandibuzz doing his best to try to take out this Poliwrath. And here we go, the Icy Wind, just enough to take it out. And you can see trying to go for the Ice Shard down. You're just 2 Ice Shards away. Could he have done it? And unfortunately, no, the next aerial comes through. And he was saying, you know, this is not enough, but it turned out it was.
Yeah, it does, because that Dugong barely got knocked out in the end. What an epic series from both of those trainers. Of course, congratulations to Beach for moving on to Championship Sunday, but Rambling Man, straight off his performance in Europe, back here, strong performance once again, brought the Bastion on, almost brought it home in game number 2 and game number 3, but unfortunately is eliminated in Orlando.
Well, Beach will finally make that top cut. Let's hear a few words from him and Soph on the floor.
That too. Welcome in, everybody. I'm here with Beach, who just had one of the closest series I've ever seen in a championship series event against Ramblin' Man. Beach, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling so hyped, so energetic. That was very nerve-wracking. I don't know how I won, but we pulled through, so I'm just happy to advance and not be knocked out yet.
Absolutely.